Cameron Maddox shoved his Rolex into his coat pocket and stepped onto the crowded subway platform, muttering under his breath, "Next time I'll take the damn chopper." He hated the subway. The noise, the smells, the people packed in like sardines, but lower Manhattan traffic had been gridlocked for over an hour, and he had a 10 a.m. board meeting he couldn't miss. So here he was, a millionaire in a tailored navy suit, riding underground with the rest of the city. The train screeched into the station. He stepped on, gripping the overhead rail just as the doors slid shut behind him. He barely registered the woman sitting beside the door until his phone buzzed and she glanced up, then quickly looked away. She was reading a worn paperback. Her long, chestnut hair fell in waves over a faded army green jacket, and her jeans had a tear at the knee. Her face was fresh, no makeup, and she wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just looked real. Cameron glanced down at her book. "That any good?" he asked, surprising even himself. She blinked up at him. "Only if you like painfully awkward love stories and too much coffee." "I like coffee," he said, half smiling. She gave a small laugh. "Then it's a life changer." He chuckled, shifting to hold the rail over her head as the train jolted forward. "You always this enthusiastic in the morning." "Only when I'm running late and some guy in a $3,000 suit tries to make small talk," she said, not unkindly. Cameron tilted his head. "You know your suits." "I sell them," she said, "at Penrose department." "You just missed our spring sale." "You think I shop at department stores?" She shrugged. "You're on the subway, anything's possible," he grinned. "Touché." She turned back to her book, but not before he saw the twitch of a smile. The train lurched again, harder this time, and she grabbed the edge of her seat. Her shoulder brushed his leg and she stiffened. "Sorry," she muttered. "No problem," he hesitated. "I'm Cameron." She glanced up again. "Piper." "Piper," he repeated like he was tasting the name. "Nice to meet you." "You too," she said, then added with a smirk, "Cameron, who rides the subway in a suit that costs more than my rent." He laughed. "You're not going to let that go, are you?" "Not a chance." The train slowed. He checked the map overhead, still 5 stops from Wall Street. He looked at Piper again. She had gone back to her book, but her eyes weren't moving across the page. "You late for something?" he asked. She gave a sigh. "Job interview, assistant buyer at a boutique in Soho." "You nervous?" She shrugged. "A little. I've been working retail since college." "This would be a step up." He nodded. "You'll get it." She tilted her head. "You always this confident about strangers." "Only the interesting ones." Her cheeks turned a shade pinker, but she looked amused. "You're smooth." "You think that was smooth? I'm rusty." "I haven't flirted on public transportation since college." "And how's that going for you?" He grinned again. "I'll let you know." The train screeched to a halt. He looked up. Wall Street. Cameron hesitated. He didn't want to leave. "I hope you get the job," he said. Piper looked up, surprised. "Thanks, Cameron." He lingered, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small black card, no name, just a number. "If you ever want to grab coffee or tell me how that book ends." She looked at the card, then at him. "Is this your version of asking for my number?" "I'm still rusty." She took it. "I'll think about it." He smiled, stepped off the train, and the doors closed behind him. Back in his office, high above the city in a glass tower that bore his last name across the marble lobby, Maddox Capital, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Piper. A woman in scuffed boots and a torn jacket who didn't care that his cufflinks were worth more than her monthly rent. She was the first person in weeks who hadn't asked what he did, or what car he drove, or how many homes he owned. She had just looked at him, not the money, not the reputation. Him. He stared out the window at the skyline, then down at the subway map on his phone. It was stupid. Irrational. But the next morning he took the subway again, and the next, and the next. On the 4th day she was there, same train, same spot. This time she smiled first. "You again?" she asked. "I had a feeling you'd be here, and you just happened to be riding the subway again." "I like the view." She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. "How'd the interview go?" he asked. "I got it," she said. "Start next week." "That's amazing." "Thanks." "I'm still not buying your subway excuse, though." "I guess I just wanted to see you again." That made her pause, then her smile softened. "Well," she said, "I guess it's a good thing I didn't switch lines." They talked the whole ride about books, movies, her new job. His vague excuse about working in finance. She didn't press, and he didn't lie. When they got off, she looked up at him. "Same time tomorrow," he nodded. "Absolutely." And just like that, the millionaire kept riding the subway, not for convenience, not to avoid traffic, but because of the woman who sat beside him and made the city a little less cold. Piper glanced at Cameron's tie and said, "That shade of burgundy is a little aggressive for someone trying not to be noticed." Cameron looked down and raised an eyebrow. "Is that your professional opinion?" As someone who spent 6 years reorganizing display mannequins by color family, yes. He leaned against the train pole, his briefcase balanced neatly at his feet. "Noted. Next time I'll wear something less intimidating." "Maybe lavender." Piper pushed her hair behind her ear and gave a quiet laugh. "Please do, I could use the entertainment." Cameron tilted his head, studying her. "You always this observant, or am I just lucky?" She didn't answer right away, but her eyes softened slightly. "I notice things." Comes with the territory when you work on commission. People make decisions fast, you learn how to read them faster. I'd be terrible at that. No, you wouldn't. She looked at him more intently now. You're good at deflecting with charm, but you're still watching, just for different reasons. Cameron took that in. He didn't deflect often. He didn't have to, but with her, he found himself doing it more than he liked. "So," she said, shifting the focus, "what corner of finance are you in? Or are you just a really ambitious accountant?" He hesitated, then gave her the safest answer that was still true. "I manage investments." "For who?" "Private clients, some institutional." He looked at her evenly. "Does it matter?" Piper shrugged. "Only if you're laundering money or funding a coup. Otherwise, I don't really care." He laughed, and something in his chest eased. The train slowed. She stood, gripping the overhead rail as the car rocked gently. "I'm meeting our new head buyer for coffee before work. She wants to see my sketches. You design, not professionally, yet, but I've been sewing since I was 12. It's what I really want to do eventually." "Why haven't you?" "Because rent doesn't accept dreams as payment." "Maybe it should," Cameron said. She looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. "Is that how you got into finance? By dreaming hard enough that someone handed you a corner office?" "Not exactly. I built my first portfolio with $3,000 and a laptop. Slept on a futon for 2 years until I made enough to hire an intern. Now, it's less futon, more skyline." Her brow lifted. "So you're one of those self-made types. Is that a bad thing?" "No, just rare." She paused. "Most of the guys I meet in suits got their positions handed to them by someone who shares their last name." He didn't reply, but her words struck something deeper than he let show. They exited together at Spring Street. Cameron waited while she adjusted the strap on her oversized canvas bag. "You're walking me to work now?" she asked. "Is that a problem?" "I didn't say that." She glanced sideways. "You just don't seem like the kind of guy who has time for detours." "Maybe I make time for the right ones." She didn't respond, but her expression shifted, less guarded, more curious. They stopped outside a small cafe tucked between a vintage bookstore and a nail salon. Piper nodded toward the door. "This is me." Cameron looked at the cafe's faded awning and then at her. "You'll show her your sketches?" "That's the plan, and if she says no, then I'll keep sketching. Maybe sell a few online, maybe just keep them for me." She lifted her chin. "I don't need anyone to give me permission to do what I love." He smiled slowly. "No, I don't think you do." She hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I'm not great at texting people I don't know, so if you want to get coffee again, maybe somewhere that doesn't have metal poles and brake squeals, this is where I'll be Thursday evening. They do a design showcase in the back room. Local stuff. I'm showing 2 pieces." Cameron took the paper, careful not to crease it. "I'll be there." "I didn't say it was an invitation." "You didn't have to." She turned, pushed open the cafe door, and disappeared inside. That evening, Cameron stood in his office, the skyline turning gold behind him. He held the paper in one hand, Piper's handwriting looping across the top in dark ink. She hadn't given him her number. She hadn't asked about his net worth. She hadn't even Googled him, he was certain of it. He'd built Maddox Capital with the precision of a surgeon and the caution of a man who'd grown up knowing what it meant to have nothing. Every relationship he'd had since his first million came with conditions, hidden agendas, expectations, masks. Piper had no interest in any of that. She didn't need him, she didn't even want him, not in the way others did. That made her dangerous and irresistible. He folded the paper carefully and slid it into the inner pocket of his jacket. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. The gallery room behind the cafe was dimly lit. The exposed brick walls hung with handmade dresses and reworked denim jackets. Stripped-down jazz floated from a speaker in the corner, blending with the low hum of conversation. Cameron stood near the back, hands in his coat pockets, eyes locked on a slate-gray dress displayed on a mannequin beneath a spotlight. The stitching was asymmetrical, deliberate, sharp-like movement captured mid-thought. He didn't need to read the placard beside it to know it was Piper's. Her style was in the details, unexpected, quietly bold. A woman with a clipboard approached him, offering a flute of something sparkling. He waved it off. "I'm waiting for someone," he said. She didn't press. Most people would have. Maybe he looked too serious, or maybe the suit said enough. Either way, he was left alone, just how he preferred it, except tonight, he didn't. The crowd shifted near the entrance. Cameron spotted her, weaving through clusters of people with a garment bag slung over her shoulder. She wore a black jumpsuit, wide-legged and belted at the waist, and her hair was swept into a low bun that made her cheekbones sharper somehow. "You came," she said when she reached him. "You look like you belong here," he said, her eyes flicked to the dress behind him. "It's the first time anything I've made has been in a room like this. It won't be the last." Piper raised an eyebrow. "You haven't even seen the second one." "I don't need to. You always this confident in things you haven't seen." "Only when I'm right," she laughed, but it was quieter than usual. There was something in her posture, shoulders drawn tighter, hands fidgeting at the zipper of the garment bag that told him she wasn't completely at ease. "Did something happen?" he asked. She hesitated. "The boutique cut my hours. The new buyer said they're going in a different direction. More imports, less local stuff." Cameron narrowed his eyes. "You showed her your designs." She didn't even look. "Said it's not what they're after." Piper exhaled. "It shouldn't surprise me. I knew it was a long shot, but still." He stepped a little closer. "That doesn't mean it wasn't worth trying." "I know." She forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's fine, I'm not giving up." "Good," he said, "because I'd be disappointed if you did." She looked up at him with a flicker of something unreadable. "Why do you care?" Cameron paused. "Because I've watched people give up on themselves too soon. I've done it. It doesn't lead anywhere good." Piper searched his face for a moment. "You don't talk about yourself much." "I'm not used to being asked." "Well, I'm asking." He held her gaze for a beat. "My father was a mechanic. My mother worked nights cleaning offices. I started trading stocks when I was 17, using the school library computer because we didn't have one at home." "You don't sound like someone who took the easy way." "There wasn't one." She studied him. "You've got that look." "What look?" "The kind people get when they've spent too long pretending they're fine being alone." He didn't respond right away. "Then maybe I was, until now." Piper blinked, and for a second the noise around them faded. Then someone called her name near the small stage at the front. "They're starting," she said. "I'll be here," he said. She joined the other designers, and Cameron moved closer to the display area, folding his arms as the lights dimmed, and a woman with a microphone began speaking about the importance of local artistry and independent design. Each piece was introduced with a short blurb. When Piper's second design came out, a structured navy coat with intricate stitching that curved like wind patterns, he heard the crowd murmur. It was unlike anything else in the room, modern but grounded, strong. She didn't look at him, but he watched her hands, clenched at her sides, then slowly relax as the applause swelled. After the showcase, she found him near the back again. "That went better than I expected," she said. "Of course it did." "Okay, now you're just being smug." "No," he said. "Just honest," she exhaled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "They want to feature the coat in the front window next week. The owner said it draws the eye." "It does." She glanced at him. "You keep saying that like you know something I don't. I know what's good. I know what stands out." And you think I stand out? I know you do. Her eyes held his for a moment, then dropped to his hands still in his pockets. You're hard to read, I've been told. Are you always like this with women? No. Why me? He didn't hesitate. Because you don't ask for anything. You don't expect me to be anyone but who I am. She looked at him, then stepped closer. You still haven't told me what kind of clients you work with. Cameron hesitated. I own the firm, she blinked. The investment firm, he nodded. The one with the giant glass building uptown. That's the one. Piper looked away for a second, processing, then she turned back to him. Do you ever get tired of hiding it, constantly? But it changes how people see me. How they treat me? And you thought I'd treat you differently? I didn't know, I hoped not. Piper exhaled and shook her head. You're absurd, you know that. I've been called worse. She looked down, then back up. You should have told me. I wanted to. I just didn't want it to get in the way. It hasn't, she said. But next time, no more vague answers, deal, and no more burgundy ties, he laughed. That one might take some negotiation. She smiled, this time for real. I'll allow Navy, compromise. I like it. She looked around, then back at him. Do you want to get out of here? Lead the way. They stepped out into the night together, the city lights stretching wide above them, and for the first time in a long time, Cameron didn't care about the traffic. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing the top floor of Maddox Capital. Piper stepped out slowly, her gaze sweeping over the glossy marble floors and the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city, its skyline glittering like spilled diamonds in the fading afternoon light. She hadn't expected to be here, not yet, not like this. Cameron stood near his desk, jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled up, talking quietly with a woman in a slate-gray pencil dress who was holding a tablet and nodding rapidly. He caught sight of Piper and immediately ended the discussion with a clipped, "We'll pick this up tomorrow." The assistant disappeared down the hall without a glance back. Piper raised an eyebrow. "You're bossy here." Cameron crossed the room, looking different. Not in his clothes or his posture, those were the same, but in the way he moved now, less reserved, more certain. There was no trace of the man who used to ride the subway at 9 sharp pretending he didn't care if she looked his way. "I didn't think you'd actually come," he said. "You offered to show me your world," she said. "I figured that included your office." He gestured toward the corner where a small seating area overlooked the skyline. "Come on, I promise I won't pitch you any investments." She followed him, sitting on the edge of the white leather sofa. "This place is intense. It's quieter than it used to be," he said, pouring 2 glasses of something amber from a crystal decanter. "I started clearing my calendar after 6. Let me guess, because of me." He handed her a glass. "Because of what I don't want to miss." She took a sip and narrowed her eyes. "You're turning into a romantic, Maddox. Just with you." She looked at him, then set down the glass. "Last night I got an email from a woman who was at the showcase." He straightened. "What did it say?" "She runs a boutique in Tribeca. She said she wants to carry my line." "Can you believe that? My line, like I have one. You will." "She wants 10 pieces to start. I told her I'd need time. She said she'd wait." Cameron leaned forward. "You're going to do it right. I don't have a studio. I barely have a sewing machine that doesn't jam when I look at it sideways." He stood and walked to a sleek black cabinet across the room. When he returned, he held out a small envelope. "Then this is going to help." Piper hesitated. "What's in it?" "A key." "To what?" "A workspace I bought 2 years ago and never used. It's in the garment district. All the equipment's there. You just have to bring yourself." She stared at him. "You're giving me a studio." "I'm offering it," he said. "No strings, no pressure." "I've seen what you can do, Piper. You just need the space to do it." Her voice dropped. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I believe in you." He paused. "And because I've spent too long building things that only made money. I want to build something that makes meaning." She looked down at the envelope. "I don't want to be a project." "You're not." "I don't want to be an accessory either. Some story you tell you're bored about how you helped a starving artist find herself." He stepped in front of her, his voice steady. "You're not an accessory. You're the first real thing that's happened to me in years, and if you want to walk away from this, I won't stop you." "But I won't pretend I don't want you here." Her breath caught. Then quietly, I don't want to walk away. He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. Then don't. They stood like that for a moment, the city glowing behind them until Piper looked down at their hands. You know, she said, when I first met you, I thought you were just another guy who liked the sound of his own voice. That's fair. Now I realize, you're a guy who listens better than he talks. Cameron laughed, low and warm. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Don't get used to it. I won't, he said. Then, but there's something I want to ask you. Her brow lifted. Already, I'm not proposing, he said quickly. I'm not that reckless, could have fooled me. But I do want you to come with me, just for a few days. Where? He pulled out his phone and held it up, showing her a photo of a coastal town, stone streets, turquoise water, white rooftops under a blazing sun. Santorini. There's a villa that's been sitting empty since I bought it last year. I thought it might be better with company. Piper looked from the screen to him. You want to take me to Greece? Just until you're ready to start designing. Consider it a gift for surviving department store commission sales. She shook her head. You're insane. Maybe, he said, but I'm smart enough to know when I've found something I don't want to lose. She looked at him for a long moment. You know I'm still trying to trust all this, right? You. The fact that you're not going to wake up in a week and realize you want someone who already knows what fork goes with what course. I don't care about the forks. I do. Then I'll learn. She took a breath, then reached for the envelope. Okay, Maddox. Let's see what your villa looks like. 3 days later, they stood on a balcony overlooking the Aegean Sea, wind tugging at their clothes, laughter echoing from the streets below. Piper turned to him, barefoot and sun-kissed, her sketchbook resting on a small iron table beside a bowl of olives and a half-finished glass of wine. I started the first piece, she said. He looked at her, then down at the sketch. What's it called? She smiled. Rush Hour, he laughed, pulling her close. You win, she arched an eyebrow. Win what, my love, he said. But I think you knew that the moment you sat beside me. She leaned into him, her voice soft but sure. I think I did. And with the sun dipping low behind them and the waves crashing gently against the cliffs below, Cameron Maddox finally stopped chasing time because love had found him. And this time he was staying still. Cameron adjusted the cuff of his linen shirt as he stepped into the bright courtyard, the scent of rosemary and ocean salt drifting through the breeze. Piper was barefoot again, crouched near the stone wall with a measuring tape looped around her neck and a handful of fabric swatches spread across the mosaic tiles. Sunlight made her hair look nearly copper, and her focus was so precise, so unshakable, that he paused before speaking. You've turned my villa into a design studio, he said, amusement threading through his voice. She glanced up without missing a beat. You said I could use the space. You didn't say anything about boundaries. I didn't think I needed to, he said, stepping beside her and lifting a scrap of deep emerald silk between his fingers. This one's new. It's for a wrap dress, she said, brushing off her knees as she stood, something fluid. I've been experimenting with drape on a moving form, he raised an eyebrow. You're designing in motion now, it's how I think. Movement, texture, I don't want stiff mannequins, I want to feel how it lives on skin. He watched her as she turned back to her materials, her hands quick and certain. I've never seen you like this. Like what? Like someone who knows exactly what she's meant to be doing. She set down the swatches and looked at him. I think I always knew, I just didn't have the room to prove it. Cameron reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded schedule. You might want to make more room. The boutique requested another set. They're holding an exclusive launch next month. Her eyes widened. What? They want to call it the Piper Collection. They've already started mocking up the window display, she blinked. That's impossible. They're not asking for finished pieces. They want the vision, the story. You'll have full control over production. Piper stared at him. You made this happen. I introduced them to your work. That's it. You did the rest. Her voice dropped. You keep doing that. He tilted his head. Doing what? Clearing paths I didn't know I could walk. He stepped closer. I just opened the doors. You're the one walking through them. She didn't respond right away. Then softly, no one's ever done that for me. He touched her cheek, brushing back a loose strand of hair. You deserve it, every step. Her breath caught, but she didn't pull away. You're not afraid of what comes next, are you? I was, he admitted. But not anymore. She looked at him, really looked, and something in her settled. Neither am I. Later that evening, they sat on the rooftop terrace, a soft breeze rustling the linen canopy overhead. The sun had just dipped past the cliffs, leaving the sky streaked with violet and coral. A low table between them held 2 empty wine glasses and a half-finished bowl of olives. Piper leaned back on her hands, legs stretched out, toes brushing his knee. I used to think love was supposed to be loud, messy, dramatic, he glanced at her. And now I think it's knowing someone's beside you even when you're silent, especially then, he reached for her hand. I used to think I had to earn it, build it, buy it, control it. And now, he smiled. Now I know it just has to be chosen. Over and over, she turned toward him, her voice steady. I choose you. His jaw tensed slightly, emotions tightening in his throat. You have no idea how long I've waited to hear that. I think I do, she said, brushing her thumb over his knuckles. Because I've been waiting just as long to say it. The next week, they flew back to New York together. The designer suite Cameron prepared for her in the garment district was more than she imagined: tall windows, industrial lights, all the tools she needed. But what struck her most wasn't the space. It was the plaque mounted beside the door. Piper & Co. Cameron stood beside her as she read it. You're not working for anyone anymore. She turned to him, eyes full. You really think I can run a business? No, he said. I know you can build an empire. Their days began to shape themselves: mornings at the studio, evenings at their apartment in Tribeca, weekends spent scouting fabric markets and rooftop dinners with close friends. Piper's line launched to a reception so overwhelming that the boutique commissioned a second collection before the first had cleared the shelves. She didn't need his money. She never had. But she let him stand beside her, not as a benefactor, but as a partner. They didn't rush the next step. There was no need. They were already building a life, not sprinting toward a milestone. But one evening, standing in the middle of her studio after a long day of fittings, Cameron took her hand and said, Come with me. She followed him without question, down the block, up a narrow stairwell, onto the roof of a building she didn't recognize. There, under a string of soft lights and a sky full of stars, stood a table set for 2. I thought we'd eat somewhere new, he said. Piper looked around, stunned. Is this your building? It is now, he said. I bought it this morning, 3 floors. I want to turn it into a shared space for independent designers, a co-op. She stared at him, eyes wide. You're serious? I want to build something we can give back, a place for people like you who just need a chance. She stepped into his arms, her voice thick. You keep surprising me. I want to spend the rest of my life doing that, he said. If you'll let me. She pulled back just enough to see his face. Was that a proposal? He smiled. Not yet, she grinned. Then what are you waiting for? Nothing. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Nothing at all. Her hands flew to her mouth as he opened it, revealing a simple gold ring with a single emerald-cut diamond, elegant and clean. Piper Lane, he said quietly, will you marry me? She nodded before she could even form words. Yes, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and she laughed through tears. You planned this, didn't you? I've been planning it since the day you told me I was wearing the wrong tie. She kissed him, and the city faded around them. A year later, they married in a private ceremony on the cliffs of Santorini, just steps from where she had finished her first full sketchbook. The guest list was small, just family and a few close friends, but the joy was immeasurable. Piper walked barefoot down the aisle, a dress of her own design flowing around her like sea foam. Cameron waited with eyes that never left hers. When they kissed, the wind caught her veil and carried it toward the sea. Neither of them looked back in the years that followed. Piper & Co. became a name whispered in fashion circles around the world. Young designers flocked to the co-op Cameron built, and the rooftop where he proposed became a regular meeting spot for late-night brainstorms and early morning coffees. They traveled often, but always came home to the apartment with tall windows and a view of the skyline that had once felt so far away. And every morning, without fail, they rode the subway together, just for old time's sake.